Oh, what happened to my red?
That's cool.
Under fractions, children, if you would, the little subheading here is completing a whole. Completing a whole. And as with most things we do in math, okay, this, when you come up with these problems, you are going to sketch them out. And again, for this, at least, make sure you're doing rectangles. It's just too hard to cut. It's too hard to cut circles. It's easy to cut circles in half and in fourths and in eighths and sixteenths, but it's hard to cut them in sevenths and whatever. The rectangles are much easier to do that. Here is an example of what they'll ask you. TV commercials make up 1/6. TV commercials make up 1/6 of airtime. I'll bet you can probably guess what they'll ask. What fraction of airtime is not commercials? What fraction is not commercials? If you're like me, notice that commercials seem to happen more frequently when the suspense gets greater. Just as about as the show is about to end, they seem like they have more content. So if you see this, what would you do? Well, yes, you would draw a little rectangle. What does this rectangle? Notice it doesn't ask you for a specific number. It's just asking you for a fraction. What does this rectangle stand for? Anybody? Airtime. Thank you very much for whoever was thinking of it and didn't want to say that. Okay. And what do we know? We know that 1/6 is commercials, right? So that is the fraction that tells us what we need to do here. What am I going to do with my little rectangle? I'm to cut it into how many equal pieces? 6 of them. So there's half, and cut each half into thirds. And I don't need, I know that 1/6 of them, what does this stand for? This is commercials. So what is the other fraction that's left over that has to be not commercials? What fraction is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Which is only logical, right? If 1 out of 6 pieces are commercials, 5, 6 would not be commercials. And you don't need to know specific numbers. Usually, let's say a show is on for an hour. If a show was an hour, how many minutes would not be commercials? If the show is on for an hour, if you have a 60-minute show and you cut it into 6 equal pieces, each piece is 10 minutes, right? So how much would not be commercials, Brianna? 50 minutes. And then how much would be? Do you know, back in the day when I was just a little older than you is when cable television first started? That's how old it is. And do you know that the reason why people bought cable television? Lance? No, believe it or not, we've had color since the 50s. And I'm not quite that old. Why did people, what was the selling point for cable TV? There was only one cable thing and people got it, well, very little, very few. You didn't have like the 300 stations you had now. Why did cable, what was the selling point for people to spend, I think it was like $20 a month to have cable? What was the selling point? Jillian?
I would guess, but It's like it had,
That's not ESPN, but,
No, so, you could, like, put movies, like, that you take from, well, I know Redbox was like, it's not.
yeah, no red boxes back then. You couldn't pick what movies you watch. You had to watch whatever. I think HBO was one of the stations you could get. You could get HBO and maybe CNN. Maybe there was like 5 or 6 choices, but what was this is ironic because that you guys wouldn't even know. Why did people want cable television back then? Lance?
More channels?
No. The selling point for cable television. What's that? There weren't any commercials. The whole selling point of cable TV was that you could spend $20 a month and you would get some, they would show some movies or whatever, but not a lot. But you would not get any commercials at all. Now, people pay like $150 a month, and there's as many commercials on cable television as there is if you actually didn't have, like, does anybody see back in the day? If I didn't have to, I pay $20 a month for my cable. That's how much, and if that's like dirt cheap. That's like unheard of, but if I had a choice, I would actually put an antenna back up and get it off of the air. Because you can get all the big stations. You just don't get ESPN. Sports is overrated in news. Alright, one more problem here. How about this one? How about this? 6/7 of the mass of an apple is water. What fraction of the apple is not water? Now this again is a case in point where I know that at least probably 90% of you can tell me that answer just right now without drawing the picture. But I will tell you again, I don't care at this point. You need to sketch it out. Train yourself in the easy problems, and the hard problems will be much simpler. What am I going to draw? A rectangle. What does this rectangle stand for? What does the whole rectangle stand for, Charlie?
Yeah.
Yep. Or the mass of the apple, whichever way you want to say it. Okay, how many pieces am I cutting that apple into? Lance? 7, because that's the bottom of a fraction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What is 6/7? 6/7 is water. Water in 6 of these. Water, 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 water. But this last one is, by the way, what is it? Not water. Aren't our bodies 90% water? 75% water? 80% water?
75.
So think of that. If you ever wanted to lose a lot of weight, just come dehydrate yourself. Unfortunately, you wouldn't tell a lot of it. So what fraction is not water? 1 of the 7ths of the apple is not water. That's not very difficult, is it?